Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats. We have a very special guest joining us on a very tight schedule as he prepares for this weekend's big game. Michael Voss in the room joining us, ladies and gentlemen. So if you could grab a seat, we're going to have a quick chat with Vossy. Thank you. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Plenty of time to grab photos with the cups and the players. But right now, we need to keep moving. So if you take your seats, that'd be fantastic. Thanks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, American leadership expert Warren Bennett once said that leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. And our next guest has spent the best part of the last 12 months doing exactly that. Please welcome the senior coach of the Carlton men's program, Michael Voss.
Thanks, Jace.
Welcome,
so
mate.
I've come straight from training, which is hence why I've got shorts on, so my apologies.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Vossy, you grew up a mad, passionate blue bagger, so what does it mean to you to be in this room today surrounded by Carlton legends?
Yeah, it's pretty massive. The 82 is a little bit sooner than my memory enables me, being about 7 years of age. I've got a bit more memories of the next one, but certainly the players, I feel like at times, I've said this many times, I feel like I'm sort of living my childhood dream in a lot of ways with players that I've watched and seen, and now I've had the experience of being able to meet and, you know, have dinners with and have conversations with. And no, it's been a fantastic experience. It's been a great year. It's been a very exciting year. The excitement that's in this room is not lost on any of us. We feel like we're moving on a really... there we go, there's one.
There's more than one, Vossy,
yeah,
I can tell you.
There's a few here, isn't there? But and we just can't wait for the next two games. You know, we I don't know what the crowd we're expecting, 70-odd thousand, hopefully, against Melbourne, and then if we could fit 120 in the last round, they probably would. So, so we're really looking forward to it.
The spirit of Carlton's actually past and present players, and that connection I know is really important to you and to your group, particularly a young group. On the weekend, Carlton had 6 100-game players, so a lot of young kids coming through, very new to the caper. How important is it for you to build that bridge and strengthen that connection between the greats of the past and all the lessons that they can learn and pass on to the youngsters of the present day?
Oh, no, it's critical. You have to know your identity first and foremost. You have to be really comfortable with what your identity is, and so we lean on what has been the strengths of Carlton over such a long period of time. So we lean on all of that, and we share the stories around that. And the jumper is a very important figure to us. It's been a really big conversation for us. But what we're also want to do is create the modern version of what that looks like, and we'll have our own flavour on it because we have a whole heap of different personalities that are within our group that'll have a slight little play on what it looked like, than 20 years ago to 40 years ago to 60 years ago. So, we're forging that, and we're forging our identity and what our group is now, and that's still evolving. It's certainly not complete, and it'll continue to evolve. But we've made a lot of ground this year on that very thing.
How would you define the DNA of this group?
Well, I'd like to think across if we're measured by anything this year, that you'd see an element of selflessness about the way that we've played. Certainly the last couple of games, we haven't been able to achieve that to the level we'd like to, but and that's the identity piece that we need to make sure that we finish the year with, because we started that really strongly. It's been tough. That's a really important DNA of Carlton, and something that we've been able to bring for the majority of the season. And then we talk about being able to play that front half game and really wrap an identity around that. So there have been some really key themes for us throughout the year, and we're in the infancy of that. We're only young in that. We're young in that conversation, and we feel like we've got so much more to do. And I'd love nothing more than for this whole room, and I'm sure everyone would really enjoy it too, is to finish that story off the right way. And it feels like we need to finish that off by it'd be nice to get a finals campaign under our belt. We'd all love that. But what I'm really got a strong belief around, confident, is the direction's there. The players are really committed to it, and they're a pretty hungry group.
There's lots of measures of success in footy. Wins and losses from the outside looking in are the ones that everyone cares about most. But if you're on the inside of a program, and all the players here today will be able to attest to this, there's lots of different measurements of success internally. With you and the benchmarks that your coaches panel have set up over the last 12 months, How are you tracking compared to those? Where do you think that the club's really taken a big stride forward in the last 12?
No, we've made massive ground in a lot of areas. Like we look at just the contested ball number was 17th last year. We're in the top 4 in that area. We've still got some work to do around our defensive measures and where we'd like to be attacking from. But we've made a lot of ground in that particular area of the game. And we've sort of built, I guess, an 18-man system that we try to stay connected. Now, the challenge has been in that is just how consistent we can stay in that and keep the behaviours no matter where you play and what opposition you play and the time of year that we play. We haven't probably established that level of consistency that we need to be a sustainable top 4 team, but that's what we're shooting for. The other little measures that come in place is what we've tried to value is really key moments throughout the year as well, and not just defining wins. We've had a few of those, but defining moments in games where we've had to, be resilient when the opposition's coming at us and we've been able to hold on, or we've had to provide a response, or we've played a really selfless game. So, we've also acknowledged those throughout the year because we're trying to change the mindset of the group and what they look at. It's not all just about the bad scenario. There is some positive scenarios out there, and so that's how we're trying to change, I guess, the culture within and how the boys see themselves and as I mentioned earlier, the identity that we want to play with.
Situation you're currently in, 2 games left, sitting in the 8 at the moment. There's no escaping the big picture. So as an internal group and as a coaching group, do you try to block out the big picture and just focus on the minutiae, or do you embrace the situation and look at this as an opportunity for future development? How are you treating it?
I think it's all about exposure. It won't necessarily be protecting the boys from anything because we've got to learn to live in this space. We've got to learn to live in the games that really matter and look forward to those. And out of their mouths, not mine. It's really new to them about being able to step up in that. But that's part of growing up. That's part of getting better as a footy team and as a footy club. And our attitude's been that we're going to embrace this as much as we possibly can. But we're going to do it with some excitement. We're going to do it with some boldness. We're going to be brave in the way we're going about it. I think that would be the Carlton way. So we're going to try and finish off that way.
Mate, we appreciate your time. We thank you for everything you've done for the club over the next 12 months. Good luck for the next
Jason,
couple
cheers.
of weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Voss.
Enjoy your day.
Thanks. Well, that big game against Melbourne Saturday night at the G will follow our AFLW team's first ever appearance, as Luke mentioned, at the MCG. Carlton's AFLW team taking on Melbourne in a practice match on Saturday afternoon. We have another very special guest. Aidone returns and to preview Season 7 of AFLW. Here's Ash with AFLW coach Daniel Harford.
We'll both go onto the handheld mics, I think, for this one.
Great idea.
Now, of course, yourself, Harf, you're a player, past player of the Carlton Football Club. In terms of sharing that rich history with players like these in the rooms, how does that feel?
It is very exciting. I mean, who will ever forget my 9 games of greatness in 2004? It's hard to go back and not think of how excited the fans were at that time as well. But to be able to be a part of these afternoons, I was here in 2019 when we did the last one, and it was a great energy in the room. The club's changed dramatically since then. But to have a little connection in the history of the footy club from a playing perspective is super exciting. You see Parko's over there, and Sellers, and Wayne Harms, and Kenny Hunter, and I saw Mike Fitzpatrick, and all the greats that are sitting over here as the Premiership players. To be linked to that just as a player, not a Premiership player, but as a player, as part of a great footy club is very, very cool.
You played your 9 games, but we can't get rid of you. Now you're in the coaching staff. Now talk about your coaching career. Was that ever in your mind to be coaching? I mean, obviously you've led the AFLW team to some great highlights, but was that ever on the cards for you?
I suppose I was always one of those players that sat in the back of the meeting, except I was front left in the meeting, just by the way, that always thought, maybe, how would I do this if I was in charge, or what do I take from different coaches, and thought that at the end of my playing career that I would like to try and see what it looked like under my plan, so to speak. So it wasn't ever really part of the plan from the start, but as I went through my career, I thought it would be nice to stay connected to the game. I still love the game and think it's the greatest game on the planet. So coaching was an avenue for me to stay connected at a local level initially.
Amazing, and of course we've got 2 weeks until the season kicks off. But how good is that? You've got the 2022 AFL season coming to an end, and then straight into the W, which is great for all of us footy heads in the room. But how are the girls taking it? Obviously, they've already had a season earlier in the year, and now they're going to be playing again in August. Talk us through the training. Obviously, the weather's changed, the temperatures changed, and how they're feeling ahead of this season.
They're bloody cold at night. It's what they are, Ash. It's very different to summer training. I'll give you the tip. But I think it's actually a good thing because a couple of reasons. That the AFL competition, the women's competition, would start of Feb or start of January last year, when the football wheel had stopped turning from a men's perspective. It's such a big wheel, such an enormous wheel in its processes. So we had to start the wheel again when it was summertime, with the cricket and the tennis and school holidays and the beach and the caravans and all that stuff. And it seemed that people weren't ready for footy at that time of the year again. So being able to piggyback off the men's final series and such energy from a Carlton perspective, to be able to carry that through to the start of our season is super exciting. Our players are really looking forward to that, to get some energy through the room and through the fans being at their games. And from a physical perspective, the fact that they haven't had 6 months off, I think is a big positive. That they had a month off, 6 weeks off, and then started to tick the bodies over again. Didn't have to restart their engines after 6 months, which we know is really hard to do when you have a big break. So physically they're fantastic. We've got a brand new coaching staff in place this year, which we're really excited about. New players coming in and a new season, as you say, 2 weeks today at the home of footy at Icon Park. We kick it all off again.
Exactly right. And mentioned there in terms of players in and outs, we've obviously had to flip the magnets, in particular into the midfield. Talk us through a couple of players that we should be excited to look out for this season.
I've looked through the midfield. Anyone that watched the last couple of games, Maddie Guerin was a player that did her knee about 3 years ago and has been working her way back through and set the world on fire for us in the middle in the last couple of games at the end of last season. She'll be one of the mainstays for us now. Abby McKay, who's really emerged magnificently in the last couple of seasons, she'll be one. Mimi Hill won the Rising Star. Keely Shearer was a nominee last year. We've got enough talent. Elise O'Day's a two-time All-Australian, will go through there, so will Jess Del Pos. We've got enough talent through the midfield to deal with most teams out there, we think. It's just a matter of putting it all together with the chemistry and the cohesion that you require from any group of players any given time. So that's what we've been working on the last 3 months or so, and hopefully it pays off in 2 weeks' time.
Shh. And of course, yourself, you recently signed an extension of the contract earlier this year. You've always been passionate not only about the Carlton Football Club, but about the AFL women's program as a whole. What are you expecting to see out of the program and the team for the next couple of years?
Yeah, we're expecting to see some really exciting development. As you mentioned, there's been a bit of a turnover. People talk about the talent that has disappeared from the list, but there's the one great coach told me one day, talent's no good to you if they're not prepared to drive for the common good. So we've got people that now are really part of our program, and players that are enormously talented, that had enormous offers to go elsewhere to stay and be a part of this. They feel that this is the right program for them and for our footy club. So we're really looking forward to seeing some great emerging players through this year. If we can get the chemistry right, who knows what's on offer. But we're really excited. The MCG on Saturday, we'd love to see as many people get to the game early and be a part of that for our players. It's super exciting for them. Melbourne are a great benchmark in the women's competition as well as the men's. So we'll get to know a fair bit about where we sit early doors on Saturday.
You took my final question from me.
Sorry.
The significance of playing at the MCG ahead of, obviously, the AFL game. It's a great double header. Talk us through the significance of the team.
Well, it is very significant. I asked the question to the playing group the other week when the news came through how many players had played on the MCG. It was about half a dozen put their hand up and said that they had. So there's going to be 20-odd players, 18, 20 players get their first look at the Mecca. And how exciting is that? And what that looks like going forward for women's footy, we don't know. But we're going to be there Saturday, where history has been made and all these great players have won premierships on that very venue. We get to see that and be a part of that on Saturday for our program. And it's one of those things, when I said it the other day, it was one of those Tom Cruise moments when he was on Oprah. Remember that one, when he jumped up and down on the couch?
We all remember that one.
We had a few of those moments with the players. They were that keen and that excited about being there that we had a few Tom Cruise moments. So it's very exciting.
Love that. Amazing. Once again, thanks for joining us, Harf, and of course, good luck for the upcoming season.
Good on you. Go Baggers.
And as Harf mentioned there, of course, get there early for that match against Melbourne. Of course, on the hallowed turf of the MCG, you'll get a double header. First of all, our women's team and then the men's as well. Right now, though, we are going to take a short break, but we'll be back very soon.